Hey guys, and welcome to this video. In this video, I'm talking about day 2 of my logo design process. Now, in the last video, I spoke about day 1, where I kicked off the project and brought myself up to speed with everything I needed to know about the project. If you want to know more about what I did in day 1, if you haven't seen that video, check out this video. But in this video, I'm going to be talking about what I did today on day 2. So in day 2, I initiated step 3 and 4 and 5 of my phase 1 in my design logo process checklist. And what I did today was brainstorming, I planned my creative direction, and I undertook some visual research. So in day 1, I brought myself fully up to speed with everything, where I looked at the design brief, learned more about the project, had a kickoff call with the client. And in day 2, it's time to now start coming up with ideas. What I want to do before I start sketching ideas and start coming up with logo ideas, I like to brainstorm and unpack everything about the project to see if there's any concept territories that I want to base a logo design on. So in day 1, I did step 1 and 2 of phase 1, and in today, I did step 3, 4, and 5. So first, I start with brainstorming, and what I do here is I use a simple technique on the computer. It's a bit like mind mapping, but this is something that I've found works really well for me. And this is Illustrator document where I go through step by step. So first I look at qualities, and what I did here was unpack some of the qualities that were relevant to this particular project. This project is is about a logo design for a private training company based in the UK. So from having a chat with the kickoff call, looking at the brief, some of the qualities here were things like passion. The company is passionate about educating people. It's a family business. It's a personal experience. You know, being a training education platform, it's all about development, improvement. You know, it's inspirational to get people inspired to undertake qualifications and better themselves. Sense of self-improvement, ambition, goals, potential, nurturing and encouraging. So here we've got some qualities, and then what I'd like to do is then think of creative interpretations for these qualities. And what this is just doing is just, you know, trying to interpret these words creatively to see if there's any sparks or any cool ideas to take me forward. So here I'm looking at creative interpretation. So what I came up with here was a series of words such as like direction, bridge, building, stability, unlocking potential, you know, reaching, climbing, hopes, you know, foundation, cycles, personal growth, projection, elevation, align formation, journey, target and focus, and things like that. So these are just some words that creatively interpret the qualities. And then I move on to initial themes. So then I like to take the qualities and the creative interpretations and see if how these can come together to form maybe initial themes that I could potentially think could be really good to base a design on. So here I've got things like building blocks, pathway, shooting star, personal growth, concentric rings, forward motion, construction, orbit, personal momentum, stepping stones, lift, elevation. So here are some sort of themes like that come out of the qualities and the interpretations that could really push and drive a logo idea. And then next I've got design traits. So, you know, taking into consideration all these things I've just come up with, what could the design look like? So it could be exciting, there could be gradients to communicate that forward movement, to get some movement in 2D images. It's kind of minimal, keeping in mind that it is education too, so it's going to have impact. Structure could be dynamic, it's got to have gravitas and maybe contrast and contemporary images like that. So this whole brainstorming give me, you know, an idea of things that I could unpack to maybe work with. So then once I've done the brainstorming, I'll work on making my creative direction. So then what I do next is I take all of that brainstorming and try and boil it down into initial territories. So, you know, what am I going to build a logo design on? What is going to drive my design when I go forward? What I like to do is come up with at least 3 creative territories, because when I'm working on a project and I'm unpacking things in the brainstorming stage, there's always more than one amazing idea that can come out. Now, I might not necessarily take action on all of these, but you know, it's good to have them should I need them. So in this instance, I came up with 3 concept territories, and one that stood out to me was building space. And I like the idea of building space. And for this concept, it would all be about those who seek to further their education come to RTS, Riverside Training Spalding, that's an abbreviation for that, to build and develop their skills and knowledge, to gain qualifications to build a better life. RTS offers a space to learn, grow and build. RTS helps build careers, futures and potentials for their students. So, nothing too complicated here, a simple sentiment which could easily be for any training platform, but on the kickoff call, they were really passionate about helping people. So to me, it feels like they're really passionate about building people up. So I really like this idea as a potential initial concept territory to build a logo design on. The next one was a path to success. And this one was all about learning is a never-ending journey. We never stop. RTS helps people at the start of their careers realize their passions and potential and helps put young people on a path to lead them into a successful career. Unlike the first one, this one's more about pathway, more about journeys that individuals will take. This one also stood out to me, which I thought could be quite an interesting theme to base a logo design on. And lastly, I have one called New Direction. And this one's all about RTS can be a place where it all begins. When people study with RTS, they are embarking on a new career direction. RTS can help give young professionals a sense of direction with their studies. So a different perspective here. The first one was all about building themselves up. The next one was all about that pathway, and this one is all about a direction. So there was 3 initial concept territories that I really thought stood out to me that I would like to base my logo design on. Now, again, it's important to mention that at this early stage, I like to come up with 3 territories. Now, depending on how much time and budget I have on a project will determine how much time I spend on the work. Now, for this particular project, it's only going to warrant time to look at one concept. So for this project, I'm going to go all in on my strongest, which I think is my strongest concept territory. I'm going to roll out design for that, and I'm going to present to the client a design for one concept territory. Hopefully they will go for that, and if that works, great. But if there's an issue, if they don't like it, then I always have something else to fall back on. So at this stage, I'll come up with 3 interesting territories, but I'll only go with the amount that I feel the budget and time allows. And on this project, I think it's only 1. So I'm going to go with the one I think works the best. So on this project, I really liked building space. I thought that the idea of the fact that people build themselves up, this idea of building could be a really interesting concept to create a logo design on. So once I've got my initial territories, I look at what to do. So next, what I like to do is do some research. Now, this is optional, but I like to do a little bit of research just to inspire myself further, really to get some ideas and, cover a broader range of ground. So, I'm really inspired and I can do a really cool job. So here I want to look at icons and symbols for blocks, components, formations, letter marks, because for this logo design, I think a letter mark could be quite cool. Riverside Training Spalding is quite a long name, so maybe we could convert it down into a letter mark to really make a really punchy logo with gravitas. Could be really cool. So I'm going to look at letter marks, and then a sense of variety. They offer a lot of different categories to learn on at the training academy. So I thought, yeah, it could be cool to consider variety as well. And the look and feel for this one, I think, would be bold, have a sense of like a stamp, geometric and abstract potentially. I think with blocks, it could be interesting to look at geometric shapes and how something could build, how the components could build together. That could be an interesting way to have it look and feel. And then layers and overlays. So here I'm going to look at some research and I'm going to have a think about how it's going to look and feel. Now you can see that I've also considered this for the other 2 concept territories. I won't go into it now because I'm only going to go for the building space, but this would be something I'd have should I need to fall back on later. And then finally, I'm going to look at what I want to create. So on this project, I need to create a logo identity, and I really need to create a striking logo identity to communicate the core values of the company, a timeless design, a balance between formal and flair. Got to keep in mind that this is a formal training, it's a serious platform, so I don't want to get too abstract with it, but I also want it to be exciting and have a sense of flair to it. So I got to find a balance between that formal and the flair. It needs to have a strong presentation, a strong sense of education and standards. It needs to feel authoritative, trustworthy, with a sense of gravitas, and it's got to inspire potential business. It's got to inspire people. I want people to come and see this brand and be like, wow, this is cool, I'm excited. I want to study with these guys. And to represent the business. So that is my creative direction. So once I've done the brainstorming and I've done the creative direction, I will then move on to my visual research. So from my creative direction, I listed out what I wanted to look into, and then I go out and look at visual research. Now, this is optional. Some designers do this, some designers don't, but I chose to do it. I feel like visual research is cool because it's like, what is the style I want to create it? It helps define the style. So, you know, to get a feel of the sort of the context and the look and feel that I want to do. So here I went out and looked at some geometric shapes. I looked at how shapes can come together, looked at sort of interactivity between shapes, different colors, different shades, just to get some inspiration of a variety of shapes. And one thing that occurred to me then was the idea of geometry and thinking of geometric shapes, and this made me think of like Swiss style and Bauhaus style. So I had a little look into some Swiss style and some Bauhaus style just to get a quick little look and feel of how geometry and geometric shapes could work together, and then I went out and looked at some geometric logo designs. So here I went out and I looked at some abstract and geometric logos. The sort of thing that I was thinking in my mind. So here I made a little mood board. I flicked through some logo books and I had a little look online, and I found some logos that I liked, and I compiled them on a piece of paper and I printed those up. And so then I've got my mood boards. So after all of that, once I've got my brainstorming and my creative direction and my visual research, I'll print it all out and I'll put it up on my project wall. So now I've done, and that's what I did in day 2. I did my brainstorming, planned my creative direction and visual research. So at this point, I now have an idea what I want my design to be about. I've just spent 2 days, day 1 learning all about the project, and day 2 brainstorming and coming up with ideas. Now today I'm satisfied that I've got a cool direction that I want to go in, and I'm quite excited about exploring that building space. And after looking at some of my visual inspiration, you know, this is the kind of style I want to look in. I want to create something that, you know, a blocky type logo mark, maybe exploring the type and seeing how that could come together to form something like really bold and strong. So that closes up and finishes phase 1 in my design process. Next, I'm going to move on to phase 2. And phase 2 is all about visual concept and design. Now I'm going to take everything I've learned in the past 2 days and look at visual concept and design. And this is where I'm going to sketch my ideas. This is where I'm going to refine my sketches and draw some scamps and compose some logo formulas. And after tomorrow, I should have lots of visual designs that I'm going to be ready to take into day 4 and come onto the computer and start artworking it. So that wraps up day 2. In the next video, I'm going to talk about day 3, where I'm going to share with you all my sketches. So stick around for that. And I look forward to sharing with you what I do tomorrow when I take pen to paper and start sketching out my logos, which I'm looking forward to sharing with you. So see you in the next video.